Alright, well, good afternoon everybody. It's Flying Crow. Promised you a video on painting backdrops. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. So you can see I've got this whiteboard that I got from Home Depot. Now 4x8 sheet of it's less than $11, so it's a good deal. And what I do is when I'm at Home Depot, I get them to cut it for me into 3 equal lengthwise pieces. So you can see I've got 3 pieces here that are 16 inches high, and that makes up for the 4-foot sheet. So the first step I'm doing is I am using this Rust-Oleum, and this is self-etching primer because I want to give the paint something good to bite into. If you don't use primer, you can do without it. You can do without it, but it will your paint will scratch off easily if you don't put some primer underneath it. So I'm just using the gray self-etching primer, and you could probably do another type of primer. It doesn't really matter. That's just what I happen to have laying around. So this is the first step, is spraying the sheet with this gray primer. So use the gray. Don't use a black primer on it. You probably won't get as good of color. You know, you'll have to cover it too much to get rid of the black. So so this is the first step, and after this dries we'll come back and put on the sky blue paint. So hang on. Okay, so my boards are dry with the primer, and I've got another third one behind me over there. So now I'm ready to apply the sky blue paint. So this is just flat latex paint is all this is. I got it at Home Depot, and the color I got was called Wild Blue. So this color Wild Blue, and you can see the tint and all on there. I think the biggest mistake that some people make when they go to paint backdrops is they get their blue too dark. Now this is sky blue, like I said, but notice there's a label on it, 40% light. So I even took it, although it looked good in the store as a good sky color, I said lighten it up by 40%, and then it should be good. And it did, because on the other backdrop it came out just perfect. The color it should be. And so don't go too dark with your sky. That's a big mistake. Now you can use an enamel or an oil-based paint for your sky, but the reason I use this, once in a while, it comes in a can. So that's one good reason, because I'm going to pour it out and roll it on, because you don't want any texture in your sky. Okay, the second reason I use a latex paint is because I'm going to come back, do my trees and all that, and my clouds with artist acrylics. So what's going to happen is the acrylics are going to kind of activate that paint again, that latex paint, and blend it in when I do the clouds. So that's what makes the clouds look correct. Okay, it's the same as if you remember Bob Ross on television, his wet on wet technique. In other words, he would come back, paint something, and then come right over it and paint it again. And it's because the paint was wet that he got such good results. So that's kind of along the same premise. Even though my sky is going to be latex paint, when I come back with the acrylics, it'll kind of activate that blue again and give you a good blend. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna roll on this paint because I'm losing daylight. Alright, so I'm out in the train room now, and I just finished putting the second coat on all 3 of my sheets there for the backdrop. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them at least 24 hours to dry, and then we'll come back after that and we'll put in the trees and the clouds. And that's a real easy process, and I'll show you how to do that so you get good results for your backdrop. All right, see you tomorrow. All right, guys, now that I've got my board here that's dry with the latex paint, sky blue, I'm going to go ahead and start painting my trees and my clouds. So this is meant to be a real easy way to do things. This is not, I'm not meaning for everybody to be Van Gogh or Rembrandt when you do this. This is just to give your background a little bit life so you don't, so it doesn't look too plain when you're running your trains along the way. So, like I said, the background's latex, but what I want you to do is get some artist acrylics, and I just got these at Michael's. You can get them at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any place that sells art supplies. And these are the cheap ones. You don't need the expensive stuff for this. So all you need are these 6 colors. You don't need anything else. With these 6 colors, you can make any color in the world. All right. So I have titanium white. I have crimson, ivory black, phthalo blue. This is brilliant yellow and sap green. So those are the only 3 colors you need. And you know, if you get a little bit different shade of yellow, it's not going to make that much of a difference. So just remember that. So what I'm going to do, I got this little plate here, and these are, I think, 97 cents. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of my acrylics in each of the compartments. And this is really easy. And these, this size of tube should last you a little while. So, I've already done, you know, a couple backdrops with these. So you should be fine with these tubes of paint to paint, you know, 5 or 6 at least. Probably 8 or 10. Like I said, these aren't the most expensive ones. You can get some expensive acrylics if you want. You know, they can go up to, you know, this size of tube go up to almost $20. So, but for what we're doing, we don't need that. All right, so I've got them squeezed out, and I'll probably have to add some more later. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to use these kinds of brushes. So these are called chalk paint brushes, and they're designed specifically to apply chalk paint. Now we're not applying chalk paint, but the coarseness of the texture of the brush makes it great for what we're about to do. All right. So the other, step out of the camera here. Then I've just got 2 other brushes that are just small brushes, a little 1/4 inch brush and then an inch brush, or maybe that's a half. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little green and red first, and we're just going to mix the green and red, and of course you get a brownish color when you do that. Okay. And then a little of the titanium white and the ivory black, and we want a nice medium to light gray color. Okay, and you can mix that in with your, and you don't have to be so careful about mixing this because you want a lot of that variation in color. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along the bottom edge and go about 3 inches up. And draw little sticks. That's all I'm going to do with this small brush. And you don't have to be, as you can see, I'm not being precise and exact, as just fairly straight up and down. That's all you got to do. And it doesn't matter if you get a little bit of wide with them. That's okay. So that's all you need to do, and they don't have to be perfect. You just because you'll see why in a little bit, that we're not going to need to make anything perfect here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to also take a little more of that sap green and the crimson and mix it together in with the black and white. And so we get kind of a grayish brown color when you do that. And that's the effect we're going for. All right. So if you remember from elementary school art class, how you mix green and red to get brown. So I'm just going to just pull up a few of them a little bit higher and a little bit thicker, you know, here and there. It doesn't have to be, it can be however you want it. I'll do my best Bob Ross impersonation here. Just a bunch of happy little tree trunks. So, and they, you know, there's you can see some blue, and that's fine. No problem here. Now I'm not gonna go the whole way down the sheet, but I think this is good what's in camera range. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna take my my paint mixture here, and now I'm gonna take some of the yellow and the sap green and mix it in together right over the top of that that other mixture I had. So, all right. So it's going to get a little olive color in there. You might want to mix a little bit more of the crimson in. Well, let's get that yellow in. Now I've got kind of an olive color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this chalk brush and I'm just going to start dabbing here. And the trees don't need to be more than about 6 to 8 inches high. You don't want anything much higher than that. And you'll notice when you dab the brush in there, a little bit goes a long way. So, and you want a variation of color, you know. So I want to go back and load some more sap green on my brush. And all I'm doing is dotting it on. Okay, and I'm dotting it over the other colors. So you notice the variation in colors I have. And this is just making, now you think this isn't going to look decent, but it will. I told you when I'm finished. I'm just going to go back over it. When I get done here, and I want a little daylight showing through it. I don't want to cover it completely. Okay. So there we go. So that's okay. Now I'm going to mix a little black in with it. Okay. So a little more black and a little more sap green and a little more of the yellow, because you don't want it too dark. If it gets too dark, just throw a little bit of white in there with it, and that'll definitely lighten it up some. So I'm going to come back over it and dot it, and you can see now I've got a different color going on. I hope you can see that. Oops, and I'm dripping some off the side. All right, so keep coming back with the, you know, mixing in your green and your yellow, maybe a little black, maybe a little white. You want a great variation of color in this while you're doing it. Okay. And you can make, you know, you can go and let's make some just a little bit taller if you want to. You know, you can put some up there that are a little bit taller than the other ones. However you want to do it, but just come back now. Just mix a little more black in, and you can see it's darker. I'm just spotting over it is all I'm doing. Like I say, don't you know, let a little bit of the light show through. So now you think if you think I'm going to leave it like that, you're mistaken. So what I'm going to come do is take this little bit wider brush and start pulling down with these colors. So what I'm going to do is it's going to give the effect of some branches back in here, but it's going to basically hide most of those branches that I put, or those tree trunks that I put in. So I'm just going to take some of this color on this brush and pull up with it, or you can pull down a little bit, because what I'm going to do after I go and pull the brush, and I can put in a little more red if I want to, you know, to get some color built up in there. So I'm just, and you know what, if you get a little bit of red mixed in, that doesn't hurt anything. So make sure you do that. But you notice I still have a little bit of the blue showing through in spots. If you look through in a forest, you'll see all kinds of shades, reds and blacks and blues, things like that. So now I'm going to go back with that brush I was using the green on again, and you might have pulled up just a little bit too far, so you can go back and dot it down a little bit lower. Because if you'll notice, when you're looking at a tree line, unless you've just got all pine trees, everything's real low to the ground. The branches get real low to the ground. And the reason I'm just dabbing this chalk brush like this is it gives it more of a leaf texture. Okay? So you can see, like I said, I've still got a little blue showing through. I don't want really a lot of blue at the bottom, because that's my ground. So I'm going to lift the edge up here and try to dab it down a little bit. And you don't want, of course, you don't want any blue down at the bottom edge. So there we go. You know, that gives it a little more effect, like grasses and things like that. So if you were looking up a hill, of course you would, you probably wouldn't see blue that low. So I'm just gonna pull it up a little bit more, the color that I put there. Because the area I'm modeling is by no means mountainous, but it's a little hilly. So, and like I say, if you think you pulled up too far, just go back and start dotting again with your brush. Just come back and there you go. And then that's all you have to do. I can put this behind the layout now, especially behind a group of trees, and you can see, you know, you can see how it's going to give that effect of a grove of trees. So I think I got paint on my face and my hands. So anyway, that wasn't the plan. But anyway, all right. So I got my trees. And you can see there's some variation in color in there, and if you don't think the color is varied enough, come back with a little sap green and mix in a little bit of that yellow, and you'll get a nice color. You can come back and dab it on and say, oh, now I've got more color there. So this is just however you want to do it. It's not, like I said, what you're trying to do is paint a backdrop. You're just trying to make things look a little more realistic is all you're trying to do. You're not trying to paint each individual leaf. You're just giving the train to run past something. Okay, now, okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start up again. I don't know exactly where the camera left off. My camera gave out on me while I was filming that. So now that I've got it all clean again, I cleaned all the files off. So what I'm going to do is, while I have it on here, I just realized that I don't have enough light blue coming through. So when I went back and did some stuff. So I'm gonna experiment while I'm on camera. So let's see how it works. So let me grab a rag. So I'm going to experiment and see what this looks like. Yeah, I don't think that looks too bad actually. It looks like a little sky coming through. I just go back and dot it with some light blue. Is all I'm doing. So you want a little bit of the background to show through. You want a little bit of that sky showing through. So, and you can do that in places. And if you don't, the good thing about this is if you don't like what you did, you can come back and just go over it a little bit, you know, with another color. You're not hurting anything by going over it. So you can see I'm going to have to put some more green, because of course I've been using green more than anything. So this is kind of, like I said, it's kind of what you want to make it look like. If I can come down here and get some more, you know, some highlights in, and that's okay. There's not a problem with that. Notice I mix some more green in and red, and I'm just going to come back and pull up a little bit. That bottom edge. And I'm going to come back with some more green, because green's what I really want most of. So I mix it with a little bit of the yellow. So the sap green and the yellow looks really good together. And make sure your colors blend nicely. And you just keep doing it until you're happy with it. That's all, because that's all that really matters. Come back and a little black on there. So you can see that I come back with a little light blue and just put it through. So whatever, you know, whatever you like. Like Bob Ross says, this is your little world. So whatever you make with it is gonna be good. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's just gotta keep your eye from being distracted by a light colored background, or you know, just a plain white wall or a plain tan wall. That's all you're really trying to do here. Is just trying to fool the eye a little bit. You're not trying to be a great artist. So I'm going to pull this straight up a little bit more, because it didn't. Now I'm doing this for HO scale, of course. So if you're working in another scale, you'll want to make the trees just a little bit smaller. You know, like I said, 6 to 8 inches is good in HO. You don't want to go much more than that in HO scale. Okay, so now that I've got a little bit of green paint, a little bit of background, like I say, you know, all the colors that come through when you're in a forest setting. Sometimes you got some reddish colors, and that doesn't hurt anything. Get some reds in there, get some browns, tans, anything like that'll help things look good. You can come back with a bit of green over it, and you won't have a problem. So you notice I put too much, I covered the blue too much, so I just went and dotted some light blue. It doesn't look any different than if you, if you had actually left it like that. So. You gotta mix that up. Gotta get good and light in there. That's how you do it. Just make it look good for the way you want it, and that's it. Now, like I started to say earlier, this little section is going to be for Wilmer, because I know Wilmer said that he couldn't paint clouds. Well, here's a good way to paint clouds. Like I said, this is a latex background, so what I'm going to do is get some of my blue paint, a little more of my blue in there, and white. The blue and white's really important, but mainly the white. Okay. This phthalo blue will actually blend in way too much, so you just want a dot of that if you use it at all. I'm going to use almost pure white on this. So on the latex, once I brush this on with this chalk brush, it's going to kind of reactivate this latex paint and make it blend in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, and you can see I'm just doing little circular strokes. I actually kind of got some other paint mixed in with it, but that's okay. It doesn't detract from it at all. So just some little circular strokes. And as I'm scrubbing this in, it's gonna start drying out the blue paint a little bit, or I'm sorry, activating the blue paint. So that's okay. That's exactly what you want to happen. So then that way, the cloud is subtle. It's a subtle hint that there's a cloud there. And you can make whatever shape you want. I have some little, I didn't clean this brush really well, and I've got some paint flakes coming out of it. We'll just try to knock those off. And you can make the cloud whatever shape you want. Now, because clouds turn out to be just so many different shapes. And remember, you've got different types of clouds. You got cumulus clouds, you got cirrus clouds, things like that. So if I just keep scrubbing this in, you're gonna see some of the blue coming through. And that's what you want. Because that makes, like I say, I'm trying to knock these little flakes off where I didn't clean the brush off good. That was my fault. So there, so you probably won't be doing that part. So there's a cloud. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can see up at the top, I've got a, you know, a darker section up here. And that's okay, because whatever shape you want your cloud to be. I think I'm gonna go here and put a little more white on this side. And then that cloud is like another cloud kind of behind it. It's a little bit grayer. So as I've scrubbed it in, you can see I got a little of you can see a little bit of the blue showing through, and it looks even better once it dries. Once it dries, one of the things you got to realize, once this cloud dries, it's going to be even more subtle than it is right now. So we'll come back and look at it in just a minute. So if you see that cloud, another thing, you might make a cirrus cloud. You know, you might want to make a, you might want to take your brush and kind of do up like that. It's just an easy way to make the cloud. Kind of more round to the ends of it. You don't want to, of course, you don't want a sharp edge on a cloud. There we go. You can just draw across it if you want to. You just keep coming across it. You'll give it a nice little faint edge to it there. You don't have to do much with them. Just kind of scrub them in, and that's it for making clouds. I mean, just kind of go in circles around, reactivate that blue latex paint, and you'll end up with some nice clouds. And especially after they dry. After they dry, they look even a little bit better because they get a little more subtle in the background. And you'll go, oh, okay, I see. And I'm just going to touch up a little bit more here. I just want a little bit more blue showing through. And like I say, if you put too much, you know, go back and take your brush. You can kind of scrub it in. So you'll notice when I'm dotting, I get an even different color than I had before. So that's the key, is doing it like this rather than actually brushing it on. It'll tend to make things a little more, you know, uneven, like you really find in nature. So that's the background that I have. Like I say, your goal here is not to create a master work of art. Your goal here is to, you know, draw the attention away from a blank wall while you're running your trains. That's all you're trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. You know, if you like it, hope you'll tell me. You know, if you this by no means is the only way to do a backdrop, but it's just a good simple way, and that's you know, that's what I'm trying, something that anybody can try to do on their layout. All right, y'all have a good day then.